What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Where I Come From, a podcast where I focus solely upon the people that are in the city of Milwaukee, where we can talk about anything and everything. The only criteria is you have to be born from this city. I am, number one, ecstatic as we travel down the countdown to freedom, where as of June 15th, the city will be open, where we can go wherever the hell we want to. Now, if you got your shot, you know, you don't have to wear a mask. I still want you to because I don't trust you as far as I can throw you. But if you haven't, you will still need to put your mask on. But my number one question is how are they supposed to know who did and who didn't? Like, I'm not going to just whip out my freedom card just to not wear a mask. But for at least for the rest of the summer, I probably will keep a mask on me. But I am joined today by a very special guest as I'm getting ready to start my political series here on Where I Come From. I wanted to kick it off right. Over the past year and a half, the world was turned upside down, but most importantly, the educational system got affected big time. We started realizing how unprepared our public school system has been on so many levels, and our kids have not been properly prepared. But the young lady I am joined with here today is working towards making that change, and we're going to find out how that trip is going. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good morning.
Still morning.
Still morning for 10 minutes. Good morning.
10 more minutes.
Good morning, everyone. This is Aisha Carr, newly elected school board member for District 4, Milwaukee Public Schools.
Okay. So let's just jump right into it. What made you run?
I can answer that in so many ways. On one hand, I decided to run this. Well, first things first. This is not my first run. This is actually my second.
Yeah, because I remember. I think I seen your actual web page that you know, as you kind of gave us a brief overview of you. So for those who didn't know that page existed.
Yeah.
Why'd you run the first time?
I ran the first time because as a teacher and a former legislative staffer for former Wisconsin State Senator in Washington, D.C., I had developed a deep understanding of the educational disparities that our children face, our families and the communities face. But then beyond developing that understanding based on what I was taught in school and what I had read and heard, I started teaching, and that allowed me to experience the internal constructs, which then allowed me to feel and live through the disparities, the educational disparities. And so my theoretical understandings and my practical experiences, in addition to being a mom of a school-aged child, I was just disappointed in where our educational system was and still is. I was fearful of how that would look and how many options, quality options my daughter would have as she climbed up the K through 12 ladder. And I mean, even as an investor and one who loves youth and youth development, I was concerned about how the quality or the lack thereof of educational experiences and skill development would look after high school and beyond. And so all of my lived experiences, things that I heard, read, seen, just led me to numerous opportunities within the educational system. And the last one being, at that moment, school board. It was just like I went from CLC, working in after school programming, to being a teacher, to obtaining my principal's license, to that not being enough, to trying to figure out like what policies and systemic changes I could bring about. And so that's in short or long version of why I ran.
Right. So when you said you taught, what school did you teach at?
So I taught at James Madison Academic Campus from, I believe, 2013 to 2017. Was it 2012 to 2017? No, I loved it.
No,
I
no, I
love.
have a lot of my friends went to Madison, so
Okay,
I look at how they were growing up. I'm like, you know what? I feel bad for your teachers.
No, I loved my babies. In fact, the one that came here and spoke on my behalf last time was one of my former JMAC students.
Okay.
Yeah.
What grade? I mean, like, what subject did you teach?
So I taught English and special education. I certified in special education, but because of the co-teaching model, I worked alongside English teachers.
Okay.
And I started to pursue a dual certification, and then it just wasn't for me. And it was at a time where I was considering transitioning out, so I didn't follow through with it. But English special education.
Okay. I got a little brother that's special ed, so that's definitely appreciated when he sees people of his color in his face. Okay. So did you ever do the principal thing?
You know what? I at the end in 2017, I was supposed to be completing my practicum hours, and because of all of the controversy with the last or the first run, it ended up not being completed, and so that is something that I one day look to complete, but I haven't.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's definitely something you can do after this.
Yeah.
That way you now have a little bit know-how and how to, do it right compared to the other ones. So you said controversy after the first round. What happened?
Whew, so, I mean, I've always stayed in trouble. I've never been one to really follow the rules. My dad, when I was a little girl, raised by my father, single father, he would always say I marched to the beat of my own drums, and that has followed me throughout my life. And so I was one of the educators who did not conform to the traditional field trips of taking students to the gym, the zoo, or the museum. I like to do things a little different, and sometimes I did so in a way that it was out of compliance. And so, case in point, I took a group of my students to Washington, D.C. It was about a group of 30 Black and Latino male students to Washington, D.C. for the 20th anniversary Million Man March. And the district had denied or rejected the field trip, and so I continued on, raised money, put some of my money forth, got some sponsors, ended up connecting with the Nation of Islam and many other national leaders, and I took the students, and it was...
So now this is where my issue with school boards and policies and procedures come into play.
Okay.
What's the problem? If the parents signed off on it, you're taking full responsibilities with them. You probably also have additional chaperones as well. To me, it sounds like a typical field trip that they don't have to pay for.
I think it was really the liability and the fear of what was possible.
But but at that point in time, you took. So this is where I'm getting confused at.
Okay.
When they said no, at that point in time, you no longer have liability. I mean, they no longer have liability. You are taking it apart. This is no different than if you went to every door on your block and said, hey, if you have kids, I want to take them to the zoo. It's the same liability because you're taking all the responsibilities. Therefore, what's the problem?
You asked the same questions I asked. On one end, I understand the legality part. I mean, being a district employee, that's just like... If I were to do something unethical or illegal, say with, and I hate to use this example, but this is the first one that comes to my head. If I were to do something unethical or illegal in the community, say protesting at Sherman Park, or unfortunately, sadly, it happens in other cases, but like having relations with a minor, which I would never do, but...
Praise white Jesus, you would never do that?
No, I would never. Hell. No, you're going to make me cuss. But,
no, you can cuss on here.
But
you're free to do that here.
But the headline will be MPS teacher or educator gone rogue, right, or something like that. And so there's always some indirect association with your employer, and I think that was the concern. In addition to there were some concerns presented about safety, being or attending an event of that magnitude that's affiliated with the Nation of Islam and Honorable Louis Farrakhan, and so Minister Louis Farrakhan, and so it was just a lot of fears and a lot of people who were not open to the concept or the idea of bridging those learning gaps. What they didn't know also was that I was already teaching the stuff in my classrooms.
Right.
That was another thing that made me one of the more controversial educators. I never followed the curriculum. I hated it.
Let's keep it a buck. The curriculum is bullshit.
It is. It definitely
is. All about producing numbers and statuses and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And teaching to a test.
Right. My friend, Aziza, one of the members of P3 Podcast, said on her particular show, and it's literally stuck to me ever since, public schools teach you what to learn.
Obedience.
Meanwhile, suburban schools teach you how to learn.
I agree. I think that is valid. I would go so far as to say suburban schools. I think the students are more of the teachers in those schools, and the educators become the students.
And that's why let me back that up. Let's not say suburban school, because there's some fucked up suburban schools too.
And they're predominantly white, so that's a different culture.
I think the difference between public and private, because when the money is coming from investors, parents, students themselves, in so many words, there's a little bit more care. It's like when you buy your kids shoes, kids don't care too much about those shoes. They always get another pair. And when you make them go out and get a job and they have to buy their own shoes, they do a little bit more to make sure them shoes are good to go. Or they're less likely to want to rush to get the next new pair because that's more money coming out of their pocket to make it happen. So I get that analogy when she said it on the day, and I think that's why it stuck with me, because it does feel like MPS only cared about numbers. And I won't just say MPS, I get that feeling across public schools, period. Especially when it comes to the disparity of our black kids, they get to suffer more than anything, because we have some schools here in the city that I feel like you can care less if they're open or closed, the way I feel. So your particular role, your new role.
Oh.
Okay. What does that entail?
A bunch of bullshit.
So what's the initial title that they told you when you went to apply for it?
So basically, I am in a position where I oversee, along with 8 other board members, oversee the entire Milwaukee Public School District. And so in that role, we create policies that align, or that are supposed to align with the needs of students, staff, faculty, and staff. The other aspect that I definitely will drive or hone in more on is the community aspect. So the creation of policies, the enforcement of policies, the accountability measures that we create, that we put into place to ensure that the administration and district leaders are fulfilling their duties, roles, responsibilities. And so it's really the overseer, if I had to sum it up, the overseer and the policy development aspect of our public educational system.
What does that really look like?
So what it looks like, or what it's supposed to look like, and I can only speak for me. I don't want to be, I've already been critical enough of others. Excuse me. I would say for me, no. I will say for me, what that looks like is holding the superintendent accountable, the superintendent and his administrative team accountable to doing what's right for students and staff, faculty and staff in the district. And so ensuring that hiring processes are equitable ensuring that the curriculum and the academic team and the academic support systems that are put into place are driving quality instruction that is relevant to the cultural needs, the cultural backgrounds of our children, as well as the demands of society in the 21st century and beyond. That includes ensuring that our budget is reflective of, again, the needs of students, faculty, staff, and the community, importantly, or most importantly, because ultimately when the children leave the schools, they're going back into our communities. Right. And when they graduate, they become entrenched or embedded in communal norms. And so ensuring that our budget is reflective of those needs, those demands, also reflective of the concerns of those who are on the front lines or who are doing the work. I would also say what else? Also lobbying state legislators to ensure that statewide policies are in alignment with, again, the needs of our students, faculty, staff, community. And then I would say educating and engaging with the community in a way that gives them ownership and includes them in the processes. One of the things I've been doing, so we got smacked with a $1.2 billion budget, and it's said to, like, overall with the federal, state funding, revenue, all of that, it's said to then later become like a $2.2 billion budget. And so one of the things I've been doing, because as a board member, once I am given the proposed budget from the superintendent, it is my duty, if I will, to make amendments. And so I've been holding community work sessions where I've called people out. I've set it up where I can listen to the community and they can help me draft the amendments.
Okay, what are some of the things that you're hearing that the community is asking for?
I mean, the community is pissed, if I'm being honest.
I'm part of the community, I know.
Yeah. So people are pissed with let's start with the referendum. The referendum that cost taxpayers, key stakeholders in the community, specifically parents, millions of dollars, has not changed the trajectory or the quality of the state of our educational system. That's the first one. And so people are like, where's my money going? Right. Or where did my money go? And how has that changed things? Please help me understand, because from what I see, there is no changes. That's the first one. The second one I would say is equity and inclusion. We have our Black children in particular are disproportionately represented in every category that is detrimental to the advancement of Black people. Right. That's school suspensions or disciplinary policies, academics, like the achievement gap is real. Even the food and nutritional program has disparities that ultimately impact our children. I mean, if we're going back a couple years ago, which is still an issue, the lead in the water, and the high lead levels in which our students were tested and the results supported the fact that our children had high lead in their blood. And the schools, in addition to homes and whatnot, were a driver of this fact. And that ultimately has an impact on the cognitive and physical development of our kids. And our children, again, were directly impacted. And so the equity and inclusion aspect that really breaks down some of the deeply rooted systemic issues in our district. And then I would say, of course, academics, which in my opinion, that falls under equity. But the academics and the curriculum and the charters, charter schools, all of that, all of it came up in some way or another. But if I had to pick the top two, it was really funding, the referendum, and equity, access, and inclusion.
Can we just get a whole educational system overhaul?
You know what? I think that is possible if it's done right. I think we are going to really have to, if I had it my way, I would not dismantle our public school systems. I think our public school systems have so much potential to be great, to do great. And if I'm being honest, if I could just not pay for one thing in his lifetime,
right.
it would be education. I
True.
feel like that is a right and not a privilege.
Right.
It should be. So I mean, I think if we had more systems in place where we could hold educators accountable for what they do or what they don't do. It's kind of hard with the teachers unions and the highly politicized agendas around that. And so it's hard to get rid of the bad seeds.
Right.
And that includes school leaders too. Like, you have a lot of inequitable processes on the top that trickles down and that impacts, schools and directly the community. Ineffective leaders, inept leaders who are there to collect pension and collect money. And
I was getting ready to say that.
Yeah.
See, me personally, it's an idea I always had.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can agree, disagree. It doesn't matter. It's my show.
Exit to the left.
I've always said that the desegregation of the school system was the worst thing to happen to the black community.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily because we didn't need better learning facilities and updated materials and stuff like that, but more so we started to assimilate to their way of believing. Because we started thinking that, okay, because they were good and they were successful, we need what they have, instead of just saying, hey, we just need better of what we already have. And then when we started going through their teaching, we started proving to them, like, look, these niggas is actually smart. You know what I'm saying? They really smart. Okay, they actually smarter than us when we give them the tools to make it possible. And then that's when I felt like things like standardized testing came into place. Because if we start doing things like the SATs, where the SATs is more about how you think, it's more about how you live than how you think.
I would even push back on that. I don't think it's either.
Because here's the reason why I say that. One of the common questions that I always use as a representation in regards to that is, when you're on the playground and a bully hits you, what do you do? Based on where you live, that answer is going to look different, but to you, that answer is right. But to those who created the test, they want one specific answer. Because that specific answer is what's synonymous to a particular group of people. The passive aggressive folks in the world. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
The
I
passive
understand.
aggressive people in the world.
I understand.
So they want you to be this. So therefore, if you don't look at the world through their same eyes, your scores are not going to be good. That's why, if you pay attention, there's so many colleges that care more about the SATs than the ACTs, because that's more of a hidden way of saying, you might be too black. You know, but at the same time, another issue that I have with the school system that came out of that desegregation too is we became more college bound focused, that we felt trade and tech was beneath us. I agree 1,000%. So I always felt that the school systems need to be redeveloped, because we don't need 4 years of high school that's solely focused on you learning the same thing over and over again.
It's being taught to test.
Right. There are at least 4 or 5 classes I can remember back when I was in high school that was like, why am I here for this? You could have gave me a semester or 2 at MATC learning a career. Whether it's a career I end up going into or not, it's a trade I learned.
Yep.
It's something else that I'm a huge electronic and technical person. Okay? So regardless of the fact that I went to North Division for medical prep, what if I do not make it into medical school? This 1 year at MATC that may have gotten me an associate degree in audio visual production may be the career path I end up taking anyway. Which I feel like a lot of our black kids, they don't have that alternative form of learning. And that alternative feel like, oh, if you're not going to college, then I really don't care too much about being here anymore.
Or you're a
and
failure.
even then, MPS makes it feel like, and this is not me knocking MPS in general, I'm just using it because this is where I'm from. MPS makes it feel like if you are not at these key college preparatory schools,
which has limited enrollment, selective enrollment.
You damn near got to get drafted to get in these schools. And I've looked at some of these kids that came out of some of these schools. You really ain't no better than that person who went to custody. Okay, my fault. Barack Obama school. That's how you know I'm old.
Real.
But you know it's true.
Yeah, I know.
You know it's true. So you're no different than this person. You may even live right next door to that person. You may be related to that person. But because you got lucky and won the lottery to get in these particular schools, you now, not only do you carry yourself like you a better person, all they care about is, well, how many of y'all actually end up going to college? Then when they realize, like, as much as you call yourself prepping them for college, most of them wasn't very successful, then you dropped your numbers down. Well, how many of y'all made it through 1 year of college? Okay, some of y'all realized college wasn't for y'all. So how many of y'all enrolled in college? Okay, this number looked good. All our people enrolled in college. So now you're bragging like, yeah, we got the highest college enrollment. Mm-hmm. Now you're changing the verbiage. Mm-hmm. Now you need to know, well, how many college graduates do you have? Mm-hmm. Because when you come to find out that all this college preparatory, the number of college graduates you have is no different than the amount of college grads that came out of North Division. Now your whole, what's the word I'm looking for? Platform now changes. Mm-hmm, now we have to look at, well, what's going on here at that school that you're not getting. That's when charter schools now come into play. Mm-hmm. Now people are like saying, well, my kid, I want them to have the best school. You guys got a lottery for this school. You definitely make this school over here look like it's the worst, and it's 3 blocks from my house. What are my other alternatives?
And that's part of the problem. Limited alternatives. Limited options, quality options that are that supports or accommodates the individual needs, desires. Because to your point, we're still operating in within this construct of one size fits all. And as we've learned over time, one size does not fit all. It'll never fit all.
Because the No Child Left Behind thing, woo, that
left many behind.
It wasn't just they left many behind. You moved people who shouldn't have been moved. Prime example, I like to put myself personally in my stories. My cousin who had to come stay with me it was just closer, ended up coming to stay with us. Ended up getting enrolled into a very prestigious middle school. At the time, MEC was like the school of all schools.
Milwaukee Education Center.
I remember. The school of all schools.
They denied me.
Because MEC was only like a good 6-block walk from our house, he ended up staying with us. My cousin is one of them kids where everything has always been handed to him, so he doesn't really care. So he ended up getting into school. He's staying with us. Did not do good in English out of all subjects. That he basically almost flunked out the 6th grade. But No Child Left Behind. No, we'll just move you along with the rest of your class. And what we'll
social promotion.
Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and give you this class, or you'll make up this class come your 8th grade, or we'll give you some of the stuff that you did. So your second half of the 6th grade, you'll redo your 7th grade, and then you'll do the 7th grade work all within that set. We'll work with you. Come to find out, he was failing the 7th grade. So now here you are. We're going to go ahead and move you along with your class again. You've been moved along. Now you're in your 8th grade. You have failed both 6th, 7th, and now you're expecting him to be able to take 8th grade English at the exact same time. How are you going to expect for him to be able to do good in 8th grade English when apparently he still has some issues in the 6th grade, which is the platform for the 7th grade, which is the platform for the 8th grade? And he still graduated.
Yep.
Okay? Like, sat down with us like, hey, he failed these classes. He's going to need to enroll in summer school, but we're still going to graduate him. That doesn't make sense. Like, I understand if it was like social studies. Sometimes we just don't give a fuck about what the Europeans were doing before we got here. I get that. You might not be good at geometry. Everybody can't draw straight lines. I get that. But things like basic mathematics, basic English, you can't survive in the world if you don't understand those two.
I agree.
Language, especially the English language, is so ever changing. If you can't get the basics,
it's problematic.
Exactly. I mean, I would even be okay if y'all would have came up alive and said my cousin got dyslexia. At least we would have to understand. No, this nigga was just lazy. Okay? The difference. This nigga was just lazy.
You said it.
It's my family. I can say it. I say it to his face. This nigga was just lazy. I get it. 100%.
No, and I think there's a lot of, I think there are a lot of children who have been coddled or enabled, and their hands have been held throughout this entire program or process. I'm sorry, to the point where, you know, when we let it go and we're expecting them to demonstrate independence or self-sufficiency, they don't have those skills. And I would say that's one of my greatest issues with the educational system in general. I was reading Dr. Tony Wagner's The Achievement Gap, the Global Achievement Gap. And he presented the argument that, you know, even some of the most elite, privileged students are graduating from K through 12 systems lacking the skills necessary to be globally competitive, because that's the times that we're living in now. But they're lacking the skills to be globally competitive. And some of the skills he named, just to name a few, which he considers this some of the 7 survival skills, is problem solving, conflict resolution, critical thinking, entrepreneurialism, and creativity, agility and adaptability. And he's like, you know, we're teaching to a curriculum that is pushing or promoting standardized tests that we all know are racially biased. But then once they score high on the test, we graduate, we send them off with honors and these prestigious awards, only for them to transition into college and be passed through or fly through the courses and then transition into the real world, still lacking the skills that they need in order to really be successful and thrive and be that next generation of leaders that's going to, you know, move the agenda of the country and of society, whatever those agendas are. And so, and I agree. What I found is students who have the highest GPAs, who have the highest ACT scores, who are enrolled in some of the most prestigious universities, colleges and universities in the country, are lacking certain skills. And in the old school would like to call it the common sense. It's like
you're book
common
smart,
sense, You're not street smart.
Right.
And so, and even beyond the street smart, it's like, schools fail students by driving theories and driving philosophical beliefs, and failing to provide practical experiences for students to practice what they're learning. And so we get them on the back end, and it's like, how do I do this? And what do I do? And it's like, you got to think for them.
Right. Well, I take that back to what I call the red school theory. This is a urban podcast network, so we have white women who start educating our kids at a very young age. When you look at it, you have so many white women educators in our K-5 or our K-4 through 5th grade period.
Pre-K.
Our pre-K people. So our more, very importantly, affected children. This is when their sensories are starting to learn how to be able to maneuver on their own.
Motor skill development.
And once again, let's keep it a buck. White women are so passive aggressive in life that when conflict comes up, they null it instead of allowing them to work through it. A lot of our kids who have these so-called behavior issues never really had it, but because this was something that they were not accustomed to direct conflict, they would immediately write this person off as a problem child.
Special education. That's why the percentages.
ED, all these different things.
Emotional disorders.
It wasn't that these kids had problems. I mean, of course, you have some obvious special eds. Like my little brother.
I think if I'm being honest, we all have disabilities.
Right.
What it is and how it shows up, I can't say that. I can only speak for myself and those that are around me.
True.
But yeah, in that case, we all need an IEP, an individualized education plan.
Right. But when you think about it, if this label is being put on your child, or these representatives of the educational system is doing what I call the Daniel Tiger effect, where you're talking with your feelings and showing your feelings and not getting to the root of where the problem is, of course we can't handle it. Your playground bully is not a bully because they woke up this morning and said, I want to beat up on these kids. No, these playground bullies are trying to express themselves the best way possible. And sometimes that person over there represents the happiness that they want. So instead of trying to help this bully figure out why they are not in the place where they want to be at, you're now punishing them. You're suspending them. You're sending them back home to where the conflict and issue may even resolve. So now it's like, well, why do I want to go to school? Because school is not trying to even give a damn what's happening to me. So now we get more and more kids who start caring less and less. Or don't even want to come at all. And I'm not putting it all on white women. I've seen enough of them to know, like, look, where are my sister at? It was a question I put on my Facebook page a year ago before the pandemic actually started. Mm-hmm. And I was asking this with the serious notion because when I look back at my childhood, I had to think about when it happened. But my question was, what grade were you in when you had your first black teacher?
I am proud. Oh, look, let me go ahead and brag. I had a black principal, black teachers. I had some white ones, but let me tell you, from the Miss Cannon, the Miss Hamptons, the Miss Saffold. Yes, honey, I had them in elementary school.
And I'm not saying that they wasn't there.
Yeah, but I hear you.
But it was alarming for a lot of my post people to say third, fourth, fifth. Mm-hmm. I didn't have one till high school. I didn't have one till middle school.
My daughter's middle school.
Right.
I mean, we're not counting EAs, like educational assistants or peers.
We're not counting them. Yep. We're counting the actual the teacher's name who was on that door.
And let me tell you, my daughter had never really liked science. She fell in love with science because of that black teacher, right. Mrs. Brown.
And that makes big. Now, me, I end up going to a church school for my kindergarten through 8th grade. I ended up going to a church school, not because my mom felt like this school was a better school than the school that was nearby me. It was a simple fact, my birthday's in December. And NPS, could you please drop that rule? Could you please drop the rule where if they're five, they have to be 5 before the start of the school year?
I think that's a state. That's a state legislature.
Okay, who do I need to talk to?
Now, let's go. Let's march up to Madison because I got a whole down notebook.
Maybe because it happened to me and now
no, it was me too. Me too.
Like, me too. I feel like now we're already behind. Like my 5-year-old is smart enough to be in the 1st grade, but my 5-year-old has a mental block when it comes to school because she had been denied 3 separate times of starting school because of her birthday. She couldn't get in the Head Start program because the person who was in charge at the time, stuff happened. So the new person was like, well, we're not accepting any more kids, even though her place was damn near guaranteed. She was supposed to start last year, but they says, oh, well, you know what? Your child doesn't turn 5 until November, so we can't take her. We'll wait until the spring semester and she can get in, only for them to say, we don't have no more spots for you.
Yeah, no, that is an issue. I actually was one of those children. My birthday is October 2nd, and I think I believe I started kindergarten late. It was something. Yeah, and I think one of the things that had one of the systems that kind of been further developed to kind of combat that, and I could be wrong, but and I definitely know there's not enough of them, but there's pre-K now, pre-K 3, and there needs to be. Every school should have pre-K 3 where they're starting, half day or whatever at the age of 3 and advancing on. I went to Hillside Head Start. And so that's kind of where some of my early development.
On 6th Street?
Hillside. Don't you do it.
Look,
don't you do it.
I'm from Latham Park.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, it's not the same.
It depends on when you was born.
Latham Park. If people ask me, I was raised on 8th and Brown, Latham Park, and Hillside. And then
you one of them flip floppers.
Oh, I am one of them flip floppers, but I don't know the depths of the two.
You were an infiltrator.
Why you sound like
we can't trust you.
Wait,
what set you claim, fam?
I had a Adidas sweater on the other day with Nikes, and I heard that, and so I guess I just maybe I learned at a young age.
You just gotta rep everything to be safe.
Yeah, perpetrator. But yeah, no, I'm familiar with the both of them. I like to say that I was raised in Hillside and Latham Park.
I'll let it slide. You're part of ALP. I used to always be over in Hillside. I got plenty of people over there, so I was one of the people who could move freely.
Yeah, too, yeah.
So I get it. No, but so getting back on topic here, because I know I can go to the left.
Me too.
So with the pandemic kind of coming to an end. Kinda, you know. We gotta see how y'all niggas act this summer.
But the remnants, the stains, or the wounds will forever be here.
And I know the school system as a whole has been truly affected by this. Virtual learning has been both a positive and a negative because a lot of people now understand how we can. I have to give my daughter's school credit. She goes to Spanish Immersion.
Oh, okay.
Before the whole virtual learning concept for this school year even came into play, the minute at the end of last school year, they already jumped right into it.
Okay.
Like, they were already having laptops ready. They were already coming up with curriculums. They was already sending work home with kids. They were on it.
And this was August.
Yeah. No. This was towards the end of the
2019,
2020 school year.
I am jealous because
they was only now. I wasn't saying they were sending actual lab, but they were saying, "Hey, this is what we're going to do," until they came to the conclusion that the school year was done. But they were on it, and I have to think about it. It was like, is it because the Hispanic community is so close knit to begin with, that maybe they were already on it because they were always on it in their community, and it just trickled into the school system? Because when they have their community meeting, people be there. Like, I'm talking there so much. There's a taco truck outside if you hungry.
I'm done. Okay.
And that's not a racist thing. It
No,
literally was a taco
understand.
truck there.
I understand.
Like, one of the dads was like, I got to come to my son's PTA, but I'm still working. He parked the truck out front.
I ain't mad at him. Look, let me know when the
next
next function is.
He had his brother running the truck while he went in and handled his daddy's duty. And then when he was done with his daddy duties, he went back to the truck and kept it moving. So I liked it. And then when I looked at my child's her old school, which was Sherman Multicultural School.
Oh, my district. Be nice. Speak your truth.
It wasn't the fact of like, oh, you guys dropped the ball. I was looking to see what you guys were going to do now. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Okay, if they're doing this over here, what are you guys doing over here? What steps are you guys taking? How are you guys moving? Because my baby loved the Head Start program at that school. I love. Even though I believe in the red school system thing for the white womeners, these women...
white womeners.
The white womeners. These women was on it. With they didn't look... You swear all of them got black husbands. you would. They didn't play. But I was really looking... Okay, Sherman... What are y'all policies? What are y'all going to do for the rest of the school year for these kids? How are you going to help these kids? Because these are kids who are in these disproportional situations. These are these kids who depend on the school for multiple things. Safe havens, after school programs, free lunches. I look to you guys because I know you guys. I wasn't going to look down the street at a different school or look around the corner. I was going to look at the school that my oldest child loved going to, my youngest child was hoping to go to, as what you guys are going to do. I was on the board of representation for the Head Start program representing Sherman Phoenix.
Okay.
So I feel your seat. I feel where you coming from, which is why I had to talk to you.
Okay.
I've been sitting in them dry ass budget meetings.
Okay. That is not inclusive and not, don't get me started.
I sit in them dry ass budget meetings to hear where all this money is allocated, and then as they broke down, you sit here and see, like you said, you hear a $2 billion program, and you saying, well, where's the $2 billion? And when they break down what pays for what and what goes where and how much, you be like, $2 billion ain't enough. Well, for you it is.
But you know what? It's enough if we had enough experts in place who understood the depths of the needs of our children and understood how to really educate and not school.
That is true.
It's nothing when you're talking about schooling.
Right.
But there is a difference between schooling and educating.
That is true.
And so, yeah, because I mean, I can go back to the freedom schools where our people, many now being our ancestors, had nothing, and we had the best educational experience, the best intellectual development, the best love.
You was blackety black.
You were blackety black and proud to be blackety black, and we ain't have nothing. Right. And so, no, we don't have enough money for school. We have enough money for educating. And the problem is our children are not being educated. That's the disconnect right there.
What can we do now in this place as we're coming out of the virtual schooling and we're getting back to being in the classroom settings and we're getting back to now having to teach face to face? What are we doing to try to move things forward that we're no longer educating, but we're schooling?
Say that again. I don't know.
Basically,
if I
how can we get from where we are now to where we
need to be?
Right.
You know what? First things first. Selfishly, I'm gonna say join my team because I have made it very clear that, especially with the contentious race and my I'm gonna keep it clean, disconnect, because I'm not anti-union. But there are a couple people in that union who I just want to like dance with. But beyond that, I will say joining my team, because I've made it very clear that I'm not here to push political agendas. I'm not here to play any more games. I am here to chronically disrupt this system. And by that, I mean really engaging parents and students, first and foremost, in a way like no other, and serving on that board with them in mind, with their needs, their desires, their cries, their supports in place, and creating policies and creating systems that align with that. I think that's the greatest thing. When we fail to when we disengage or disconnect with the community of parents and of students and other key stakeholders, we're missing an essential part of the holistic development of our students. And what you find is it's like children are having to conform to two different worlds or more. One world being their life after hours, and their life during the hours. And it's not fair when the two should merge, to do whatever necessary to further develop, to intentionally develop, every aspect of them. And so that's one of the things that I would say parents have to step up. And I'm not going to put the responsibility all on parents, because I am a single mother. I understand that struggle. I was raised by a single father. I understand the struggle from a man's perspective, a woman's perspective, a black woman's perspective. I'm all of that. Or I'm a product of all of that. Right. And so I know that having parent-teacher conferences for maybe 2 hours once or twice a week every couple months just isn't going to be conducive to what I need in order, or shall I say, it's not going to be enough, or it's not going to be accommodating enough for me to be engaged in my child's education. Right. One of the things that have come up during this pandemic, which is something that I hope we continue to enforce, is the virtual parent-teacher conference. I would say we probably, and I could be wrong, but hearing from a few of my educator friends, their parent-teacher conferences attendance was significantly higher because parents were able to call in. Right. Parents were able to Zoom in and connect with their teacher in that way. And so I could sneak out, and I mean the slots were 5 minutes. Are you going to learn everything about your child in 5 minutes? No. And I know some parents, or teachers went a little further, but I can be at work and go to the bathroom or plan my break around this to ensure that I'm connecting with my child's parent or my child's student and address my questions or concerns. That's accommodating to me. That's meeting me halfway. Right. These parent events, like, ice cream socials and pizza parties. Like, enough of that. Like, sometimes we're so on the go, or our lives are so in high demand or busy, that's all we feed our children. And you want to use an event to get me in, or to use pizza as bait to bring me in. It'd be little things like that. Like, I don't want no ice cream social or no pizza, nothing. Like, do something a little different. Like, we know our parents like happy hour. We know our parents like to do certain things. Like, why aren't we connecting with those aspects of the community to create opportunities? Like, we're already at the bottom. It's so many opportunities that can come from this, but when we're at the bottom, there's no further we can go down, and let's try something different.
I will say this with the school. I did like when they finally went back to classroom, that Wednesday virtual.
And I like the no virtual on Wednesday, the brain break, the ability to just like a work hall.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Like, I liked it because for my kids, it allowed them to process what they learned on Monday, Tuesday.
Yep.
And then, because like for an example, like my youngest, like I said, she has a sour taste in her mouth about school. Mm-hmm. So she's getting there. She's liking it because of the interaction and whatnot. She's still working through stuff. But to give them that Wednesday where it's like, okay, you did classroom for 2 days straight. Now here's self-development on your own pace. Whatever you didn't finish on Monday or Tuesday, Wednesday we can sit down and we can do it. Now you can ask me questions. Now we can try to decipher it. Now we can put real life situations in. And then you go into Thursday, Friday with more of a clearer understanding of what happened on Monday and Tuesday. Now you can interact. Now you can be a little bit more attentive because you understood the assignment that happened earlier this week instead of just 5 days straight.
You know, national leaders and educational researchers have been saying that for decades. Like, we should have a reduced work week, allowing for either early weekend or a full weekend, including that Friday off. One of the things I loved about this pandemic, and I hate it as soon as they transitioned us back in, we went from having half days with Wednesdays off. Right. I'm cool with a full day. But if we could get a midweek break, I'm speaking as a teacher, I'm speaking as a parent, I'm speaking as a student. Even like creating a cohesive schedule, academic schedule where work can be due, can be assigned like on Wednesdays or due by Wednesdays. Just allow a little bit more time, allowing a time for our children to socialize, allowing time for teachers to plan and spend time with their families. Because let me not tell you about how shitty of a parent I was when I was bending over in so many directions and investing my blood, sweat, and tears in educating everybody else's kids, and my child got the short end of the stick because by the time I came home, I was tired and the demands were heavy. And so I love the Wednesday break or even a Friday off where it just allows people time to decompress, to socialize, to regroup, to plan, to study, to prepare. Like, it's crazy how we tell kids we're preparing them for the real world. And one of the things I can say, I've had jobs that were very strict and very structured in a sense. And then I've had my career that's been very flexible and that has allowed for me to take care of myself or practice self-care. And it's just like the world ain't what we're like. All of the world ain't black and white as we're telling the kids it is and whatnot. So I love that, the shortened week.
And going back to, as an example, now that you've mentioned that, I have realized, like, through my life, because when I was in the Air Force, when we were doing our tech school phase, I had a 2-year tech school for my particular career. Every other Friday was a down Friday on my base. Like, every other Friday. And when I tell you, we knew when that Friday was coming. And we would be so ecstatic that 4-day week, that's probably when we were at our most highest of work, because like we only got 4 days. Let's get this. All we got to do is make it Thursday, and then it's like boom, it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then I'm thinking about that with my regular 9-to-5 job. My regular 9-to-5 job, the most hectic position at our job has half day Fridays. Like, you grind Monday through Thursday in the most busiest job, but Friday's a half day.
Yep. You need it. And it's not to say that's consistent across the board. And that's the fucked up thing that came from this pandemic too, that pissed me off. Like, our essential workers have been essential workers. Like, it didn't take a pandemic for us to rely on individuals working in food services or the grocery stores or the nursing, the hospitals. Like, essential workers been essential workers. Like, come on now. Like,
they're just, what it is we as a country never really looked at the bottom level jobs as important.
No. We don't value it, but we need it.
Right. Until we hit that wall where that bottom level job is the only job that can get you from point A to point B. Like, my family is a bunch of nurses. Mm-hmm. They've been nurses. Mm-hmm. My wife became a nurse. I was bragging like a motherfucker when she became a nurse.
Hey, boo. Congratulations.
I didn't work 2 jobs. I married a nurse.
I was doing that
you
winning. You winning.
And now it's like, everywhere I go, it's billboards praising CNAs and nurses and stuff like. I was like, my nigga, we've been praising them for years.
We've needed them.
We've needed them for years. Home health care providers have been needed for years. Now you got home health care providers that are questioning whether or not they want to keep their jobs because you're not. I don't know how safe you are. You got my
and we don't value them.
Right, my brother who works at Fresh Time, he also helps, he owns half of this with me too. Mm-hmm. He's never not been off because he works at Fresh Time. It's like, what in the hell do y'all need jackfruit that y'all can't stay home for 2 weeks? But then he had to think about it like, look, bruh, this is people's food. This is how we eat. Could you imagine the grocery stores being closed for 2 weeks?
No.
Not even for the people who got that money. We're talking about those folks who have to go to the grocery store, the corner store, every other day
stocking,
to get the basic stuff. If that's closed,
compliance, yeah. And we shit on them. We pay them pennies. We're rude to them. Rude as hell to them. We
always speak to their manager because you didn't get your way.
Right. No, and I mean, I think about all of that. I have a lot of young people in my program who are CNAs, personal care workers. We have a lot of young people who are entering the construction field. We have a lot of young people who are working in the grocery lines, in the retail industry. And it's just like, it's saddening how we waited for a global pandemic to praise them, yet we still haven't really praised them because now that we're heading back to whatever normalcy looks like, they're still underpaid, they're still overworked, they're still underappreciated. And so it's just like, and you see the same thing in education. You have a lot of principals, you have a lot of senior level leaders who shit on the teachers who are on the front line. And then to take it a step further, I mean, and I'm going to say this, like, I was a shitty ass teacher my first year. I relied heavily on City Year, the paraprofessionals, the other support staff in the building who did not have to do lesson planning, who did not have to teach, but held me together or kept me in line, like held me accountable, supported my students when I couldn't. Those are the people who we continue to, again, overwork, underpay, and unappreciate. And it's just like, it's fucked up. And that's one of the amendments that I'm actually putting in this $1.2 billion budget. Like, what we doing? Like, we got to take care of those who are taking care of us.
All right, because when the pandemic first hit and the kids were being virtual, I made a post that said, hey, parents, how are y'all doing? Mm-hmm. And, parents who are not accustomed to being home or being around their kids, all kind of, I'm stressed, I need a drink, my little. But then my boy Scales popped on, and he said something that made me sit back and reevaluate. Like, nigga, what about us teachers?
Yeah.
I'm like,
the teachers who we were all mad at because our kids have to stay home with us. It's just like, oh, you see what the teachers do now. You see what the teachers got to go through. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. It's almost like restructuring the pyramid so that the top of the pyramid then becomes the bottom and vice versa.
Right.
Because it's sadly that some people would even, yeah.
So we have come to the end of this interview.
Yeah.
So what's next for you? Because I know them. I'm keeping the white folks been getting on your nerves since you got this position.
I mean, white, black, and it has not been limited to the races at all. I just think
because you're the only black person on the board, right?
It's three of us. Okay. It's actually
I apologize for y'all other two.
No, school board director Marva Herndon. I don't know exactly what district she's over, and then our county supervisor and school board director Shaquana Taylor. So it's three of us.
I have to apologize to Shaquana because I know her.
Yep, three black women, and
I
then
know Shaquana, so I know she's dead serious about this because she has hosted several events through All of Us or None, Wisconsin. So I know she's serious about her role.
Oh, yeah.
I am going to be following you diligently.
Yes, www.aishacarr.com. The website is currently reflecting campaign stuff, but within a week, we'll be back on to the school board director. We'll list the events. I am starting a little philanthropic pool of funding with my school board salary to get behind like teacher-led, student-led, and parent-led initiatives. So we're doing some really good things. My youth organizers that ran my campaign, they were not canvassers. They ran the campaign and they're working with me still. And so, be on the lookout.
Okay. Well, I just want to let you know here on this particular episode that TDR is always available for you.
I appreciate you and everyone else.
Luxurious walls of podcast.
Yes, I'm going to have to put my daughters up there. Ain't nothing but a teen thing.
In one way or another, we will find a place for you to be able to go ahead and talk about anything you need to talk about when it comes to the school board as we move forward.
I appreciate you.
My doors are always open.
Thank you.
So definitely, you're welcome here. With that being said, people, make sure you check us out on all streaming platforms. That's Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Follow us on YouTube. We got all the shows, live videos are there. This particular one I did not do a live for like I normally do, only because it felt weird talking school board stuff with a bar up in the background. So I decided to not do that today. So it's like we're spring cleaning right now. Okay? Make sure you check us out next week. I do have another special guest coming in to join me. She is a dear friend. So if you ever want to learn more about Tone and our humble beginnings, make sure you tune into that episode. With that being said, people, we are out. Bye.
Bye.